So today is the start of a brand new adventure with Millenium, hero of the future, and I can't wait to get started. And it's a great jumping on point for new viewers, and we'll get to it right after the intro. Hi folks, and welcome to Sharp Mountain Games. Here we talk about group role-playing games, solo role-playing games, and there are plenty of actual plays in the playlist. You can check out our print and PDF products at Amazon, Lulu, Drive-Thru, and Roll20, and they're all linked below. Let's get started, and we're glad you're here. Today's game is Millenium Superhero of the Future, so it's a superhero game that takes place, of course, in the future. And for the rule set, we'll be using streamlined superheroes. But if you would like to play along with this adventure or another similar kind of adventure, I hope maybe it gives you some ideas for your own solo play. And let me just please say this at the beginning. If you've never solo played, please give it a try. I'm not saying don't group role play, of course not, but it's just such a wonderful way to get some more gaming in, and it can be just such a blast. So I'm using Streamlined Superheroes. It's linked down below. It's my own system available on Amazon, $2.99 at the time of recording this video, but you can use whatever rule set you like. If you want to do superheroes with the old Marvel Superheroes game, the current Marvel Superheroes game, Mutants and Masterminds, or whatever version, maybe you have the old DC game, whatever game you like. Is absolutely fine. This is just maybe to give you some ideas. So who are our heroes? And let me introduce them. So our main hero is Millenium, Mark Nova. He was a test star pilot who was granted these Millenium bands when he came out of hyperspace or warp drive at one point. He works for his family's Nova Star Corporation, which is, kind of an aerospace, space company. And he is the hero Millenium, and that's him in his civilian guise. And Higgs is his alien companion. He also has an alter ego, Professor Boson. You could see he has a great disguise. And you could see he's kind of a blobby alien creature, and he can stretch, but he's also a kind of a sciento engineer genius. And then Alpha Dawn is our plucky reporter in real life, so basically a Lois Lane type character. And she is Alpha Dawn in her superhero version, where she can do some light bending to give herself invisibility. But she's not just simply an Invisible Woman clone or Invisible Girl clone from Fantastic Four. She also has light blasts and some photonic protection for herself. So let's get right into things. And you may notice it's a little smaller play space this time. I'm trying something. May or may not stick with it. I don't know. But all I did was I bought a small canvas at just a Dollar Tree, an 11 by 17 canvas, I think it is, or 11 by 14, and just painted it a nice light blue, figuring that sort of looks like the nice clean atmospheres or things you'd see in the future. I hope so. So let's start our story off today and see where the dice take us, because that's really important. I have some ideas about where things might go, but we got to see where things actually go. So Millenium has a special relationship with the Commissioner Robotor. And do I have a card for him to show you him a little bit bigger? Yep, there he is, a little bit bigger. And you can see he's kind of a robotic Commissioner Gordon there. And he has called Millenium to his office for hopefully a special assignment. So we're going to have a desk here for the office. I don't think we need any office walls right now. Got some new walls. And just so you know, because I have a reputation of being, maybe a little bit cheap or kind of lo-fi. I'm really happy with that. These were I got a whole bag of these things. I think they're from an Angry Birds game, but I got them as yard sale leftovers. They were on the curb, baby. So that's as cheap as things come here. So in any event, he is called and he, responds kind of the way Batman used to go to Commissioner Gordon's, and this is going to be the desk. He says, oh, Millenium, thank you for answering my call so quickly. We have a very special assignment for you. It's kind of a different one than maybe some other things that you usually do, but it's very, very important. We need you to protect a diplomat who is visiting Earth. And in fact, she specifically asked to have you kind of be her bodyguard and guide in this process. She's Princess Pulsara of the Veltaxian sector. She is here. She's negotiating for her sector to enter into our planetary confederation. So this is very important. It's very important that she be kept safe. Now, she's not like they don't have a full monarchy anymore. It's really much more of an honorary title. But she's the one that's been sent to negotiate here. So it's really important because it'll open up that sector for us here on Earth. And he says, and also it's important because, it helps strengthen their defense. There are some aggressors in their sector there. So Millenium says, oh, well, I'll do everything I can. And he says, well, your first duty will be tonight, just, to take her to dinner and get to know her. And then you'll be assigned, to protect her while she's here on Earth until the peace treaty is signed, and then to make sure that she's safe in leaving. He said, but this is a small assignment. He said, I think you can handle it easily. He said, I'm hoping there's no problems with this. And he says, of course, he says, well, should I get my associate Higgs and Alpha Dawn to help me out with that? Alpha Dawn has been working closely with Higgs and I lately. And he says, well, you were the only one asked for. He said, if you want to call them in on this, he said, you certainly can do that. And but, I would keep them off to the side or inconspicuous in this process. And Millenium says, I understand. He said, you can certainly count on me and I'll do what I can. So we'll have him leave here, and he goes back to his, at Nova Star Corps, he has a sort of a superhero hideout, and he contacts Higgs. Now, Higgs works as Professor Boson, kind of incognito, at Nova Star Corps for Millenium's parents. And he contacts Alpha Dawn. Now, at this point, Alpha Dawn is in her office. And we'll start rolling dice eventually, folks. But we got to give you the setup here first. So he contacts her, and think of it as old-time radio stories. And she is in her everyday disguise or everyday identity as Starless Saturn, plucky reporter. Now, he doesn't know that when he's talking to her. They don't know. They haven't revealed their secret identities to one another, alter egos yet. So he contacts her, and he explains the mission. He says, I have to protect this diplomat from another planet. Very important negotiations. And she says, oh, is that the Veltaxian sector? He says, yes. And he seems like he's a little nervous about this because, I think as Millenium, he's a little sweet on Alpha Dawn there, and he's not sure how to take all this. He says, I have to protect this Princess Pulsara. Now, I don't know her. I haven't met her at all. He said, but I'm going to be tonight at the Moon Landing restaurant. And he said, I'd like you and Higgs to be there kind of incognito, kind of off to the sides to, watch the whole thing. And she says something like, oh, off to the sides. Maybe in her own mind, she's not sure if she really likes that, being pushed off to the side there or not. But she agrees. She agrees that she says, well, yes, of course I'll do that. I'll make sure to clear my schedule. She said, I'll meet Higgs, perhaps we can blend in with the crowd. So he says, oh, thank you. And Higgs kind of heard the conversation. Maybe he had it on speaker or on whatever they're communicating. I don't know who knows what a cell phone in the future is going to look like, but we have to just pretend it looks like our cell phones or Star Trek communicators. And he says, oh, I'm not, she sounded a little funny about things there. He says, now I'm not very human, so I might not be picking up on all the nuances. And he says, well, we'll all do our best here, I'm sure. He said, I haven't seen this Princess Pulsara, so I don't know what's going on there. So let's move things ahead. And there, he says, he tells Higgs, he says, we're to be at the Moonshot Restaurant on Armstrong Boulevard tonight, which is a moon base themed restaurant. And Higgs says, oh, that's perfect. He says, we'll check in before. And he says, I'll have my disguise on. So he's going to try to blend in with the serving crowd. And as Higgs is doing that, somebody kind of bumps him and nudges him, and he turns and he says, oh, what's, excuse me. But he doesn't see anybody. But he hears Alpha Dawn's voice in his ears, and she says, I'm invisible here tonight. I think that might be the best way for me to possibly do some protection. She said, but I'm going to be, kind of on the opposite side of the room here from you. And he says, oh, all right. I understand, certainly. So Mark is there as Millenium, and he is across the table. And he then gets to meet Princess Pulsara, and you can see the picture here. So kind of vaguely Vulcan with the pointy ears there, but humanoid. And she says, oh, Millenium, I'm so glad to meet you. She says, I specifically asked for you. And she has several people in her entourage. And we're going to assume, there's certainly other dining tables here, nothing close by. And we're going to have to pretend that there's a big picture window. Maybe I can make something here to be the huge window where they're seated right near the window. In fact, he's seated here so that she can see out and see the city. This could represent the window, I think. That'll work out nicely. And remember, you're saying, well, I don't have all this junk, or I don't want to get all this stuff out. No, you don't need it. If you're going to solo play, all you need is your rule set. You definitely want your dice because that's all the fun of the deal. And maybe like a notebook or even just a piece of paper to write things down. Some character sheets are good, or I'm a big index card. If I can't put my character on an index card, I usually think the game's too complicated, but that could just be me. So they are talking, and he does find, she has some other people. Like there's going to be other people milling about here, and I just have some of these little pawns that I got off of Amazon. These little color pawns. I don't use them often enough. And there's waitstaff and all that. And boy, this really is a small play area here. But maybe that's okay. And he's talking with her, and he's, oh, you're a real princess. And she says, well, yes, but those are, mostly ceremonial titles these days. She said, I don't order anybody around. It just doesn't work like that. Any longer. That's not what happens. She said, but, I'm really excited about this peace deal. And she said, I might have an offer for you too as well. We'll see how all this goes. And she asks him about his history, and he says what he can because he wants to certainly maintain his anonymity here. He doesn't want to, give everything away and give the whole store away. So they're eating, things are going on, and Higgs actually comes over and serves them. Now, his race is unusual, but I guess not that unusual. There are other races that stop in on Earth. This is a very cosmopolitan time for Earth, kind of almost like Star Trek, where, it's not that unusual to see people from different planets and sectors right here on Earth. So they're eating, and all of a sudden, approaching inward, and they're flying, and there is a crash through the window. And before them, so we'll break the window here. Are three, and they have kind of like jetpacks built into them. Three very slender but dangerous looking robots, and they have built onto their hands like some kind of ray gun. And let's see how that goes. So I have to make some notes here. Millenium, Higgs, and Alpha Dawn, and quick jot down their hit points so that I have them. Millenium and Alpha Dawn have some extra protection, so they get a few extra hit points. R1, R2, and R3 for our robots. And he is surprised, and Higgs kind of ducks behind he only stands about 4 feet tall, so he can squash himself down. So he squashes down behind a table and assumes his superheroic disguise, his flexy superheroic disguise. Now, Alpha Dawn, she is already in her super suit. So she stays invisible at least for this round to try and get in. Let's say she becomes visible, because she has to become visible to use any properties that she has. And Millenium hollers, the princess, get her out of the way. I'll try to protect her. So I go, you go. So we go at the same time. So let's see. Millenium is going to use his Millenium Rays. So you roll a d20, add your bonus, which should sound very familiar to everybody. It's meant to be that way. That way, if you want, as I always say, if you want to bring other people into this game, if you want to try streamline superheroes, or something similar, you're not asking them to go too far. They're still rolling d20 and all that. And let's see what these folks have. They have a pistols also. Let's see, and they're +2, and that's a d8. And let's see how they do. So it's kind of simultaneous combat. Yeah, I don't even have to add anything. Millenium hits. Oh, look at that. 10 points of damage on one of them. Does he hit Millenium? Yes, he hits Millenium for 3 points. Maybe I'll just use a different die here. And Millenium feels himself go stiff as though he's frozen in time here or something. Some kind of stun effect. And maybe it is a time thing. He's not sure, but he is going to have to break out of that next round, and we'll see how he does. Okay, then maybe we'll have Higgs go next. Now, what he's going to do is he's going to try to protect her. And I'm going to say that that is 10 points. The protection is 10 points. So once he or somebody else, it may take more than one round to try to get her out of there and get her to safety. So let's see what he's going to use. I think he's going to use his extra stretching limb. So he's going to try to, basically grab her and, scoop her up and get her to safety. She is not armed, as a diplomat here. And let's see how he does. 14 is good. He gets 4 points on the effect die. The effect die are just like damage dice for any other thing there. So he scoots her a little bit out of the way, and he's kind of trying to also protect, there are other people here. She's the main target, it seems, but he is trying to, use his extra limbs to scoop everybody out. And he tells Alpha Dawn, he says, oh, get in there and try and see what you can do. All right, now as he's doing that, I have to let them get a shot off at him. Let's see how they do. Do they hit him? No, they don't hit his rubbery form there. Although they're focused on the princess, maybe they're just not able to. So let's have Alpha Dawn. She is going to use, let's see, I think she's going to use her light blast here, which is a D8. And there are 3 of them and 3 of the good guys. So let's see how we do. Does she hit? No, sadly, she doesn't hit. But he doesn't either. So that's good. We might get through this here. We'll see what happens now. So Millenium is going to try to break free. The trouble is he doesn't have, I don't think he really has any special abilities, that would let him break free of that stun. Because his protective aura, that gives him hit points, and nothing else really seems to fit here. So that means he only rolls a d4 for his effect die. 7, and I'm going to say it's a stunning effect, so probably strength. That's a 9. Nope, he is still stunned and in shock, which means this one here is going to try to go after, let's see, I think he's going to try to go after, let's see, the princess or Higgs. 1, 2, 3, it's the princess. 4, 5, 6, it's Higgs. 1, 2, it's the princess. So he is going after the princess to try to stun her. Yes, he does. 7 points of stun on her. So I have to remember this is 6 + 1 because I don't have another dice handy here to work that well. We'll use this one. It's 70, but it's 7. Extra dice are always great for keeping track of things. Now, Higgs is still trying. All right, she's collapsed. So he is still trying to pull her away with his extra stretching limbs there. And let's see. So that means there's definitely going to be a shot on. Well, this one went after the princess. So that one can definitely still get a shot on him. And how does he do? 10 for 4. He is not quite able to drag her to safety. Oh, and he gets hit for 4. He is stunned. So the dice are not really going in their direction. So next round, he is not going to be able to act, and neither can Millenium because they are both stunned here. Okay, Alpha Dawn, it is up to you. Let's see how she's going to do. She gets her light ray out, or light is able to use her light thing, and fires at that third robot there. And she's worried. She's worried about, what's going to happen here. Okay, it didn't go down the loop, but it still landed in the thing. I think that's just fine. 12 for 4. So she hits that one robot for 4 points of damage, and she does not get hit. So she is like, oh my gosh, I'm the last hero standing here. How is this all going to go? And there's 3 of them here. All right, back to Millenium. Can he get loose here from that stun? 20 is good. Now, I don't do crits in this system because it gets too much. 1. So he is like using his mind to try and break free of this, and he's making progress. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen here. So that means this guy is going to act. Well, let's see if our princess can break free here. Now, I know some things about the princess that you don't know. So I'm going to be able to roll a d12 here. Does she break free? No, because she only has a 5 there on her die. So she does not even start to break free here. So he is going to take her and, kind of secure her to him, with his arms. He's holding onto her, and he is at the edge of the window. And I'm going to say I'm going to give him one more round before he is able to take off there. I'm going to have this robot do it. I'm going to say that the healthier robot did that. And the other 2 are kind of standing guard here, and they don't fire on anybody just yet. And the crowd is, running away. They're certainly scared, and they're trying to contact they've called whatever the future 911 is to have the everybody show up here. So let's see if Higgs can do anything to break himself free. And I'm going to say he can use his Sciento engineering. So he's pretty sharp. Not that Millenium is dumb by any means, but he's trained more as a pilot and that sort of thing. Does Higgs break free? 4. Yes, he breaks free, but he can't act this round. So he breaks free, and this guy sees that he broke free and fires at him again. Misses, which is good. Okay. Now, Alpha Dawn is going to come over here. She's going to go after this guy because she knows he's the one that's most injured and seems kind of beat up a little bit. Now, let's see. So that's a D10. And then this other one is going to aim at her. So she's going to see if she can at least take one of these robots out. Okay. 2. No, she does not take him out. And let's see. Does he hit her? Oh, he hits her for 8. That's rough. So she is stunned. I guess I can use, that's good. I got a dice for 8. So Higgs sees, I'm the only one here. The only one still moving. So he is going to still try to come in and grab her from the robot. And we're going to do a contested roll there. Now he's using his extra stretching limbs. I don't know if they would make him quite, well, I'm going to give him a D6 on that. He has these club arms. I'm going to say that represents his strength, and we're just going to use the standard D8 for the robot. We're going to see if he can pull the princess away from the robot. 13 and 5. 13 and 5. It is a tie. All right, so it's a tie because when they both succeed, you go by the effect dice. So they are tied, so nothing happens. He is pulling and trying to save her, but can't. Now the other 2, let's see. How are we going to do this? He already went, so we'll have Millenium go next. Let's see if Millenium can break free. And then the other guy will probably be firing at Higgs. So Millenium, let's see. He gets, a 4. So he is loose. But that's his action for the round. And poor Higgs is trapped for 2. Not that much. Okay. So let's see then. We have to see if Alpha Dawn can break free from that. Her intelligence is +1. I don't know if being a crime reporter would help much in that, but maybe. We'll see what happens. She could luck out. 6, nope. Nope, doesn't luck out. So even though Millenium is free, they take off and they have the princess with them. That's what the dice said. I was kind of thinking maybe they'd rescue her. Millenium is going to try and do one final shot here because these guys are fleeing and they're firing, but it's more random just to try and keep everybody off their tail. I'm just going to see if Millenium can bring one of the robots down. He's going to fire at the weakest. 15 for 7. Yeah. So he brings one down, but they got away and are flying away. And now Millenium does have flight. So I imagine he could take off after them. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? So he is taking off after them. Higgs and Alpha Dawn, neither of them have flight. So they're going to stay behind. So we are now flying over the city. You really have to use your imagination here. But the two robots had a head start there. So let's see how we're going to do this. I am going to, and he is doing his best to stay back away because he knows if he gets stunned while he's flying, he could die. So let's see. Let's see if Princess Pulsara can break free. No, she can't break free. And let's see if he can keep up with them. So his flight is a D10. I'm going to say theirs is a D6. And let's just roll and see. No, look at that. They succeeded and he didn't. So they get away. So the princess has been captured. And they are back, and we'll put her aside for now. So they are back at the restaurant here, and there is a robot. And the police show up. You know. And so does Commissioner Robotor. Where did I put him? There he is. Oh, Millenium, what happened? Oh, this is terrible. And he sees all the stuff around, and the place is, a mess, and there's the broken windows. And he says, oh, the princess, they got her. He said, but, I saw roughly what direction they went to. He said, we have to trace her. He said, I'm hoping, we brought down one of these robots. So I'm hoping that maybe that would give us even some clue. He says, do you have maybe a scientist or somebody, a roboticist who could give us an idea? Maybe we could trace it. And Higgs says, yes, if we could have I'm a sciento-engineer. He said, I'm not strictly a roboticist. He said, but perhaps with a little bit of help, I could do that as well. Maybe we could trace and just have a rough idea where this came from. And the commissioner says, yes, we have to get right on this. He said, this could be, an interstellar incident here. We have to rescue her before they take her off planet. So let's move them along here. And they'll scoop up that robot. And we'll head to our scientific lab here. And we'll make a little scientific lab here just because I want to use these things that I got. I almost said bought. What a dirty word. So here's our scientific lab that they go into, and they bring the robot in, and they consult with Professor Amaro. So here is Professor Amaro. If you recognize that, then you're a true solo RPG channel person. If not, I'm going to put a link to his channel down below to my YouTube buddy Dave, who is in Portugal, the Tabletop Wanderer. And yes, I'm using his image to, give him a little plug because people often give me a little plug, and I really appreciate it. I saw Maynard Ferguson, the jazz musician, when I was in high school. A buddy of mine was into jazz, and he took me. He said, oh, you got to go see this guy. And what really impressed me was that every time there was a solo, Maynard credited the other guy. He said, oh, and that's Jim Jones or Jim Johnson or whoever. And he did it like so frequently. I just wasn't used to that, because you don't really see that as much at the few rock concerts I had been to or pop concerts. That's really great. So check out him. And there's a picture, a little bit bigger picture, but he's going to be playing our scientist here. I think that's a really good token that I have. So they bring it in, and he says, oh, what's up here, mate? Oh, your robot. He said, let's take a look at it. And now Higgs says, I have a little bit of a background in all this. He said, in Sciento engineering, he said, perhaps I can give you some, just give you a hand. And he says, well, okay, that's fine. So Higgs's Sciento engineering is a D8. And I got to scoop up. I need a D20 here. I'm going to roll the green D20. That's the cool one because it's kind of Higgs's color there. So if he gets this, I'm going to give advantage to Professor Amaro's roll. 19 is pretty good, and a 1. So he does get advantage. If he gets 6 or better, usually on a non-combat roll, I try to give some extra help. But I think the advantage is pretty good. So Professor Amaro is going to take a look at this. And since he's a robotics professor, definitely a D12 for his ability to do that. And I think that's one of the nice things about simpler systems. Not just mine, but any simpler system. It's kind of easy to make a call on the fly. So let's see, a 16 and a 19. He would have made it either way. 3's okay. It's not great. But he looks at all this and he says, yes, oh, him. He says there's a rogue roboticist who operates here in Sharp Mountain City. He said, and I think this is his work. He said, he once worked for me for a short while, and I know how he does his code and his wiring. That's really who I think is. His name is Dr. Ithorian. He said, I'm sure that's who this is. And he says to the commissioner, he says, maybe you can trace where his doings are. And Alpha Dawn also says, she says, I might be able to call in a favor. Just give me a second here. And she goes out in the hall. Now, she is going to call in a favor as reporter Starla Saturn. She's a crime reporter with D12, and let's see how she does. 9, adding her intelligence of 1 is a 10. A 10 is always a success. Hey, a 6 is good. Yeah, she comes back. She says, I contacted someone I know at the newspaper, or the news service. I guess it's a news service. And she says, not only do we have some information, Dr. Ithorian has been spotted here in Sharp Mountain City. I think we know exactly where he is. We've got to get out there quick. And Millenium says, yes, absolutely. Now Millenium can fly, so he says, but I'm going to call in my ship. No, that might be too conspicuous. So the commissioner says, well, we'll get you a car, ground vehicle, speeder, and get you over there right quick. And we're about 32 minutes into things. I'm having such a good time. I'd love to go further. But I think that's a good stopping point for this episode, so it doesn't go on too long. So they have a lead on where the Princess Pulsara might have been taken. I thank you so much for watching. If you can like and subscribe, and most importantly, leave a little comment would be wonderful. That's kind of one of the things that keeps me going, or even any suggestions. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Take care. Stay safe and all that, and we'll see you next time.